Hello and welcome to Insights. This is Hari Kumar. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is all set to present her sixth budget in Parliament on February 1st. Incidentally, this is going to be the final budget of the current NDA government led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. As the Finance Minister herself said, the budget is not going to have anything spectacular. But since the Lok Sabha polls is at the doorsteps, the media and analysts expect something in the budget for the welfare of farmers, and they also expect a rebate in income tax, especially for the salaried class. A budget is an occasion to review the previous performance of the previous years of the government and what is in store for the coming years. Since the current budget is a vote on account and not a full budget, and no economic review has been presented, there are limitations in analyzing this budget. But overall, we could say from the economic conditions of India that the BJP government has succeeded to a great extent in ensuring the growth of the economy. But at the same time, everything is not hunky dory also. For example, the expectations even of the RBI was that the GDP growth in 23-24, that is last year, or the current financial year, was around between 6.5 and 7%. However, the real GDP growth is currently estimated to be 7.3%. That exceeded expectations. So, Indian economy has done reasonably well. So we need to analyze the Indian economy against the backdrop of meltdown in other economies, especially in the South Asia. Our neighboring countries, Pakistan and Sri Lanka, have gone through perfect storms, and they are ready to come out of it. They are ready to ride out the crisis. However, India has not experienced any such crisis. The very positive thing for our economy was inflation was under control throughout these years, even during the pandemic and post pandemic days. When the economy of the whole world was, or the growth was sluggish, Indian economy was healthy and recorded very strong growth. So that the BJP government can take credit for it. Definitely they merit an applause for that. India never experienced any shortage of food grains or price rise or lack of any essential items. For example, you in the last couple of years, Pakistan faced shortage of milk or shortage of food grains. The price of wheat was exorbitant. Sri Lanka also went through the same situation. No such situation happened in India despite having a population of 140 plus crores. So definitely the Narendra Modi led government and finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman can take the credit. However, there have been differences of opinion about certain data released by the government. Okay, perhaps opposition could have been raising non-issues when there were not many things to criticize the government. That could also be one of the reasons. However, generally speaking, the situation was decent. Now let us go back. Last year, that is during 23-24 budget, when Nirmala Sitharaman's budget focused on infrastructure development, especially the development of transport infrastructure. Western media and economists criticized the government of India. They said the government should have put money directly into the pockets of people. They said that only will increase consumer spending and that only will spur economic activity and growth. But the policy of the BJP government, right from the beginning, not this Narendra Modi government, even when he came to power in 2015, and even when BJP came to power in India for the first time under Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the policy of BJP government has been to invest in infrastructure, especially transport infrastructure, which means roads, airports, ports, and railways. It seems that focus has paid and yielded results. So, this is the policy of the BJP government versus the policy of Western governments where consumer activity is expected to increase or spur growth in the economy. Here, the BJP government thinks that by creating assets and especially in the background when the country lacks standard assets or good roads, it will lead to increase in economic activity or lead to result in trickling down of the money to the pockets of common man. That seems to have worked well. And on the debt front, India doesn't have any huge foreign debts like our neighboring countries. It was the huge foreign debt that caused the economic crisis in Pakistan and Sri Lanka. But unlike those countries, India's debt, though the total debt is on the higher side, around 57% of the GDP, only 4.5% of it is denominated in foreign currency, and the rest is denominated in Indian currency. So that is an advantage for India, and a large part of debt is long-term debt. So there is nothing to worry, though no immediate crisis for India. And on many other fronts, the focus of the government has succeeded. For example, the profit link in the scheme to promote manufacturing sector or the profit linked incentives. For example, on the electronic industry front, it has worked wonders. India is now one of the leading exporters of mobile phones. And in fact, electronics is one of the major exports of from India at present, along with petroleum products, engineering goods, etc. So that has succeeded, but at the same time, it needs to be pointed out that the government's aim to make India a center of manufacturing of semiconductor chips has not succeeded, or it has not gone as per the plans. One of the much touted projects of Vedanta didn't even happen. That was much spoken, but nothing materialized. And again, on the agricultural front, the country has done well, though there are many issues. Farmers in all parts of India are not benefiting, but at the same time, India has self-sufficiency in many, whether it is food grains, whether it is milk, whether it is poultry, whether it is meat, whether it is fish, on all fronts, the country has self-sufficiency. And India is either the number one exporter or the number two of many of those categories. And whether the price of these items in the world market depends on whether India exports or withholds export. So India has grown that much. On the other hand, there are certain gray areas where doubts have been expressed about government's claims For example, is the employment front. While the government claims that the unemployment rate has decreased from 6% to 3%, there are people who say that the data is not reliable, and there are many other factors also. Even some people accuse government of suppressing data. Another very clear factor, important factor, is that the low wages that exist in India. It is true that the wages in India are on the lower side. For example, a study by Wipro University, it pointed out that the number of workers, of the total workers, the number of workers who get twice the amount that is earned by daily wage laborers is only less than 25% of the total. So salaries are on the lower side. If only salaries increase, the per capita income of the country is going to increase. Though India is one of the major economies in the world at present, and Indian economy could be fourth or fifth GDP wise. However, on the per capita income front, India ranks far below among countries of the world. So this has to change. Only then the growth is going to become sustainable, and the target of India becoming a 5 trillion economy by 25-26 is not unachievable as per the present growth. Again, the aim of the effort taken by government to contain fiscal deficit to 4.5% of GDP by 25-26 has partly succeeded. Currently, the fiscal deficit is reported to be around 5.9% of Indian GDP. So on the fiscal front also the country has managed well or doing reasonably well. The tax collections are high, whether it is personal income tax. The GST collections have been consistently on the higher side, with average monthly GST collections exceeding 1.6 lakh crore in the recent past. And it seems that India is on the way forward. And on the infrastructure front, the focus of the government on transport infrastructure development has succeeded. For example, in many parts of India, 4-lane highways or 6-lane highways or even 7-lane highways have come up, which was unthinkable earlier. The railway infrastructure has also improved vastly, though the trains are not clean as expected. So cleanliness aspect has to be improved on trains. And the government's thrust on infrastructure project, that is Prime Minister's Gati Shakti. It was launched a few years ago, and last budget the focus was on Prime Minister's Gati Shakti in 23-24, but we don't know how much it has succeeded. Actually, the amount earmarked for Prime Minister's Gati Shakti, which has subsumed all other infrastructure projects in India, like Sagarmala project, and another project which aimed to link all the district capitals in India, around 600 district capitals, with 4-lane highways. They all were subsumed under one head, the Prime Minister's Gati Shakti. And all those projects were under the title of National Infrastructure Pipeline, which has around 9,000 projects. And from the reports that appears in media, it seems that the project has progressed well. And again, the government had another project to monetize the existing assets, which is which they term as brownfield projects, they have how well they have progressed is also not known very well. So that was called the national monetization pipeline, and the government expected to monetize almost or get 6 lakh crore from by leasing out the brownfield assets to private sector. These are all anyway, uh, such projects may not sound very good for certain groups of people, but there is no avoiding or there is no escape from such realities that you cannot travel through roads without tolls, and things have changed. Perhaps in many parts of the world it is like that, but at the same time, one aspect where the government seems to have, or the government must have done much more, was putting in place proper regulatory mechanisms, which there are complaints that have not been done. So the interests of the investors as well as the interests of the public needs to be balanced, and all these aspects we hope will be taken care of in the coming days. And the present budget, it is expected that there will be the focus on infrastructure is going to continue, and 10 to 15% or more on capex front will be allocated, will be earmarked, and emphasis on capital expenditure is going to continue. This is not only from the government, it seems, is trying to induce the private sector also to make more investment on the capex front. So this budget also is likely to continue to sum up to this budget will also continue to be a capex focused budget. There are likely to be some incentives for farmers or some tax rebates for the common man or salaried class. Maybe raising the tax limits could be there, and the government needs to ensure that some the benefits of the development needs to percolate down. Otherwise, the development will not be sustainable. That is for now. Meet you with another topics next time. Till then, goodbye.